Welcome, everybody. One more for the road. Mark Rogers, he is going to be back in action on Monday, but this is still the holiday weekend for him and his family. Some well-deserved time off for the true and actual voice of college football. But one more fill-in show for me, Matt Zemek. As you can see, I'm at Trojans Wire, also host of the USC show. And special note there, just while we're on it. Tuesday, we go live right after the Alamo Bowl. So not in our normal time slot, but it's going to be a live show right after USC versus TCU ends. You can catch the USC show then. But happy to be filling in one more time for Mark. You might have caught me on Christmas Eve and on Christmas night. So one more special show. And so today's a little bit different, right? It's Saturday, and there are 8 bowl games. 2 still going on. Virginia, Missouri, just about heading into the fourth quarter. Virginia was leading 13-7. So Missouri clearly struggling with its backup quarterback. And LSU scored 14 quick points against Houston in the Texas Bowl. Houston responded with 7 points. LSU then missed a field goal. So a lot happening in that game. It's as spicy as a Cajun dish. Early in the Texas Bowl. So we'll get to the playoff and we'll talk about some other general stories. But first, let's review the bowl games that have been played on Saturday, because there are certainly some interesting storylines to come out of that. The day started with Pat Narduzzi and Pitt. It was another doozy, all right. Pitt stepping on the rake again in a bowl game. Bowl games have not treated Pat Narduzzi well. He's lost to some not very great bowl teams either, and the latest, East Carolina. Pittsburgh was a double-digit favorite, but a lot like the Lions against the Vikings, 5 turnovers. That will certainly do it. And Pitt also had a first and goal at the 1 late in the game, couldn't score. 7, was down 9, so, from the 3-yard line, kicked a field goal. That kind of a day for Pitt. And we remind you, East Carolina scored a touchdown, which was waved off by an inadvertent whistle. So really, the final was 23-17. It could have been 30-17. Pitt was pitiful. And so Pat Narduzzi with another really ugly loss. And one of the other interesting stories to come from this game is, Mason Heinschel, the young quarterback for Pitt, torched Florida State in Tallahassee. And I know Florida State was not very good this year under Mike Norvell, but had a great game against Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech. We'll get to Georgia Tech later, but Georgia Tech not being prepared for a Mason Heinschel Pitt offense at home when a win would have gotten the Yellow Jackets into the ACC championship game. That is the one game. I mean, the Pop-Tarts Bowl against BYU, again, we'll talk about that. But really, Georgia Tech's no-show in the first quarter, first 20 minutes against Pitt, that is clearly the biggest, worst, and most disappointing loss of Georgia Tech's season under Brent Key, because Georgia Tech would have had a chance to play its way into the ACC title game and probably face Virginia, and that would have been a favorable matchup for Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech would have had a path to the college football playoff. But instead, Georgia Tech just cratered down the stretch. So back to Mason Heinschel. He showed some potential, showed some real ability. And yes, the offensive line wasn't very good, and that's a big limitation on his ceiling. That's what Narduzzi has to get fixed at Pitt for next season. Just way too much pressure, way too many sacks. We saw Notre Dame throw Pittsburgh's offensive line around like a rag doll. So it's not all Mason Heinschel, but Mason Heinschel was not very good in this game against East Carolina in the Military Bowl. And it does bring up the question, right? We're always talking about, the transfer portal at this time of year. Is it good for a player to leave? Is it bad for a player to leave? And I think going into this game, the general majority opinion, maybe not unanimous, but majority opinion was that, hey, Mason Heinschel has some upside. We really need to keep him around at Pitt. Don't want him to leave in the portal. One has to wonder, does this game change the calculus for Pat Narduzzi? I'm not sure, and I would say that if Narduzzi is intent on keeping Heinschel, I think that's a reasonable position, but you have to give him the offensive line. You have to give him the help up front. If not, it's going to be a difficult 2026 for the Pitt Panthers. So that really is the Pitt story after the loss to East Carolina. All right, another significant story, Clemson. And I know this was the opt-out bowl, lots of opt-outs on both sides of the Pinstripe Bowl, Clemson versus Penn State. But you know what? Cade Klubnik was playing. Clemson had its QB1 on the field. Penn State did not. All right? Like, you'd think that would matter. You'd think that would count for something. And it's Dabo Swinney against, interim coach Terry Smith. And hey, flowers, props to Terry Smith. The way he kept that Penn State team together, the way he got that team to play really hard. Hey, great story for Terry Smith. Congratulations to him. He and Penn State deserve what they got. But on the other side, man, come on, Clemson. Like this, you were once, a superpower in college football, and you have a QB1 and you're going up against non-QB1 from Penn State, and you get dog walked. Like Penn State was clearly the better team in that game. And so, this is not that different from previous seasons. I know Clemson made the playoff last year, but Clemson lost 3 games. Dabo has lost his fastball. I mean, he didn't lose it this year, but he has not had his fastball for half a decade. The last really great Clemson season, the kind of season we got used to in the past at Clemson, was 2020. The season that ended with Justin Fields in Ohio State, torching Trevor Lawrence in the Sugar Bowl. That was the last year Clemson really felt like Clemson. Now it feels more like Tommy Bowden again. Clemson is now very, very ordinary. And so you have to wonder, is Dabo Swinney ever going to get his fastball back? Is he ever going to get that bite? Is he ever going to get that edge? Is Clemson ever going to return to the standard that we saw several years ago? When you went into a college football season, you knew that Alabama, Clemson, and maybe Kirby Smart's Georgia, they were going to be in the mix for the national championship. It feels so long ago. And so, and Dabo Swinney's problems with the transfer portal and how he handles it are well documented. What's he going to do? How's he going to reinvent himself? How's he going to find a way out of this mess? Because it is definitely a mess. Clemson's losing some high-end talent this season. I don't see a strong 2026 on the horizon. And just to magnify Clemson's situation and why this year was such a disappointment, not only was Clemson picked to be, top 5 in the preseason, but ACC wasn't good this year, right? Florida State wasn't good. Miami was the best team in the conference, but still found a way to lose at home to Louisville, lose at SMU. Clemson should be playing for the ACC title in a year like this in the ACC. It's not as though the ACC had one of its better years, anything but. And yet Clemson was instantly not a part of the conference championship conversation. Clemson was a non-factor in the middle of October, the middle of the season. And really, Clemson and Florida State being complete non-factors in a down year for the ACC. That also magnifies how bad Mike Norvell was at his job. And it's why Seminole fans are so upset about Norvell being retained. But that was just a cost issue and goes to, these insane buyouts and these contracts drawn up by athletic directors. They need to be more incentive-based than they currently are. So Florida State painted itself into a corner, and Dabo Swinney has painted himself into a corner. What's his next move? Now, one thing we can count on, pretty likely for Dabo, he's going to fire Coach Riley. Now, I cover USC. It's obviously not Lincoln. It's Garrett Riley, offensive coordinator. I think he's coached his last game for Clemson. He has to be out of here. He has to be out the door. And it's just staggering how he and Cade Klubnik could never fully get it together. They had their moments, and they got to the playoff last year. but couldn't really sustain an elite level for very long. And as we reflect on Garrett Riley's career trajectory, let's remember that he was the offensive coordinator for Sonny Dykes at TCU when the Horned Frogs made the national championship game in the 2022 season, the January 2023 college football playoff national championship game, beat Jim Harbaugh and Michigan in that Fiesta Bowl shootout, 51-45. I mean, Garrett Riley was in a groove, fit TCU like a glove. He was riding high, and he goes to Clemson, a high-powered program. Cade Klubnik, like he had multiple years to try to figure it out, couldn't do it. So you got to think that Dabo's going to drop the hammer and fire Garrett Riley. And it's going to be interesting. It's not done deal, but like it would be a shocker if it didn't happen. So assuming that Garrett Riley does get fired, who's going to be Clemson's new offensive coordinator? That's going to be one really interesting point. And then where does Garrett Riley land? Now, here's an interesting thought. Kyle Whittingham is taking his offensive coordinator at Utah, Jason Beck, with him to Michigan, or at least that is the likely scenario. It is believed that will happen. If that does happen, does Morgan Scalley, now at Utah, does he say, hey, Garrett Riley, come to Salt Lake City, be my offensive coordinator. This can be your landing spot. This can be where you regroup. Just one of several options that Garrett Riley might have. It's going to be interesting to see what the market is like for him. So that is another really interesting story coming out of Clemson's ugly 22-10 Pinstripe Bowl loss to Penn State. So those are some of the stories kicking around. I want to mention one other story before I get to our first call here on the Voice of College Football. Pat Fitzgerald of Michigan State, head coach at Michigan State, he brings back his old pal, Mike Bajakian, who was at UMass and who worked with Fitz at Northwestern. Yeah, Bajakian did not do well at Northwestern under Pat Fitzgerald. Had a lot of low-ranked offenses, quarterback play, quarterback development wasn't very good. Like, this is a buddy hire. Kind of feels like Andrew Luck hiring his buddy Tabitha Pritchard to hire Stanford. Like, I'm not high on that one. I'm not high on Pat Fitzgerald's choice of a major central offensive assistant. Like, I do not like that if I am a Michigan State fan. So another piece of news from Saturday. Okay, we want to take your calls, want some responses here as you're watching the Gator Bowl and the Texas Bowl, part of that 8-bowl day here at the Voice of College Football. So let's go to our friend Dario MVP. Dario, how you doing?
Hello, Matt. How are you doing?
Okay.
That's good to hear. Well, I think clearly the most impactful thing long-term for this day is just Clemson and their complete and utter ineptitude and decline. Them being in the national championship or even playoff conversation from now on should be treated the same as Virginia or UCLA or Minnesota or just these random teams that could make it if something happens to go their way. I like Dabo Swinney. I respect what he did, but that was in a bygone era. Let's be honest. I don't want to say it, but it's true. Clemson may have to move off of him in order. This isn't a Garrett Riley problem. This isn't an offensive scheme problem. This is a Dabo Swinney and his personal stubborn and philosophy from not going into the transfer portal in order to get better players is costing them year after year after year. And I know it'd be a big move, and I know it's probably too late in the cycle, but they've got no hope for next season. They're going to stink on offense next year. I don't care who they get at quarterback or wide receiver or anything. I'm not going to believe in them at all. Similar to Lincoln Riley, I don't care who he's got on defense. He can have the 85 Bears on defense. I wouldn't believe in him. Dabo can have 2019 LSU, and I wouldn't believe in him. That's just how bad it's gotten. So I don't even think they're going to make a bowl game. In fact, I think it's more likely Clemson misses a bowl game next year than makes the college football playoffs.
I would agree with that last statement. I would say DeReal MVP, if you had 2019 LSU, you would not screw it up. Okay? Like you'd hire the right coordinators, you'd hire the right staff, you just say, "Hey boys, you just do what you need to do." So, yeah, because 2019 LSU was one of the all-time great teams. It was a walking NFL draft combine. So DeReal, in terms of your assessments with Clemson, I fundamentally agree. Like Clemson's an ordinary program right now. Like, and we definitely should not reflexively give Clemson any more benefit of the doubt. Like that ship has sailed. That fuel tank is empty. Totally agree with you. Like Clemson right now is a random team. And again, like there were a lot of high-end pieces on this roster. They're not going to be around next year. So like it's going to get worse before it gets better. So I think we're on the same page there. Since we're discussing Clemson, DeReal, any idea of where you think Dabo looks for an offensive coordinator? Because again, he hasn't fired Garrett Riley yet, not while we're recording this show on Saturday night, but you got to think it's going to happen. Any thoughts on where he might go with that particular choice on his 2026 staff?
Well, I have no information on. I don't follow the Clemson program that closely, but I will
Okay.
use past behavior. And past behavior says he's going to internally hire somebody that's been on his staff for a long time now, and it's going to be another. It's going to be the same issue. Like they could hire the best offensive coordinator. They could hire Joe Brady from the Buffalo Bills. Him be offensive coordinator from Clemson. I still wouldn't believe in that offense. It's not an offensive coordinator problem. It's the problem with Clemson is just so systematic with everything they're doing across the board. It isn't good enough. I know they only gave up 22 points today to Penn State, but they gave up 22 points to Penn State's backups, basically. Their best running back wasn't in the game. Drew Aller didn't play in this game. That's a pathetic performance by their defense as well. And they're just done. Like, it is just completely over for their fan base. And I honestly feel bad for them because we haven't seen a fall from this high level in quite a long time in college football. To where you go from literally arguably the best program in the sport less than a decade ago to a below average program.
It's really interesting. I'm going to pop up a comment from our friend Adam Lamparello who says Clemson had a bad QB. That sunk Clemson. So DeReal, was this more about the guy playing quarterback or more about the guy who's coaching quarterback? And before you answer, I would say, Garrett Riley did get the most out of Max Duggan. And Max Duggan, like, he's not lighting anybody up in the pros. He's one of those guys who was, a great college quarterback, like a Jay Barker, like a Tommy Frazier, guy who did well in college, was great in the moment at the collegiate level, but did not have a high pro ceiling. Garrett Riley got the most out of that kind of player at TCU. He couldn't get the most out of Cade Klubnik. So I ask you, DeReal, is it more about the coach or is it more about the QB as Adam thinks?
I think it's both. They're both poor across the board, to be honest with you. I mean, this is like picking between crap and crap. I'll go with Cade Klubnik being the answer because him not improving at all from when he started to now, any quarterback with any experience should improve from year to year, or from at least their beginning of their college career to the end of their college career. And the fact, this is the second or third straight quarterback for Clemson who hasn't improved a modicum since they stepped on the field is embarrassing. I don't know, whoever is looking at scouting quarterbacks, quarterback development needs to be fired. They just all have to go because it's all a complete disaster. Kelly Bryant, complete miss. Transferred out. Missouri was terrible. DJ Uiagalelei, horrible. Went to Florida State. Horrendous. Maybe have the worst season they've ever had as a program. And Cade Klubnik looks like he throws balls 15, 20 yards over every wide receiver. I mean, they're just not good enough across the board. This isn't a one thing and you fix it, take it out and plug it in and it's going to solve it. You need a whole swath of changes on the offensive side of the ball at minimum.
Absolutely. So, Darrell, you started your call by talking about Clemson. We obviously want to go through the other major bowl games played today, and so the other bowl game we really need to talk about is that Pop-Tarts Bowl. Georgia Tech blowing the late lead, losing to BYU late, and it's just a microcosm of Georgia Tech's past month. This team was 8-0, and the Yellow Jackets didn't even win a 10th game this season. Like, to me, Darrell, and obviously want to get your take, in addition to this being horrible for the ACC, which has really just had a really lousy day, with Pitt and Clemson, and now Georgia Tech losing as well. Beyond the ACC angle, just to me, like I went into 2025 thinking Brent Key was the guy for Georgia Tech. Like, I thought he could do really well, and for a time it looked like that. But seeing mistakes and flaws not get corrected week after week after week, and it wasn't just the no-show for in that home game against Pitt, which proved so crucial to this team's downfall late in the season. To come to the bowl game and to continue to be sloppy, not make plays, not finish drives, and let that game slip away late, man, my faith in Brent Key has definitely been eroded to the extent that, he'll never get over the hump. I'm not sure, because like the ACC could be weak enough that Georgia Tech might still be able to break through in the future, but it would be less about Brent Key being good. It would be more about the ACC failing to tie its shoelaces properly. But still, my faith in Brent Key has been, I would say, not completely eliminated, but significantly eroded. What's your take, Darrell MVP?
I think it's hard for any average program to win 10 games. And I think that's what Georgia Tech ran across, because their depth at the end of their season, I believe, cost them. They actually played better in this game than I thought they would have. I think BYU is I thought they were a pretty good team. I'm not so sure about that now. I think this could have actually given us some indication about Texas Tech and how they've been good, their level of play throughout the course of the season. But to me, I still believe in Brett Key for what he's doing. I mean, you got to remember where that program was at before. I mean, it was in a bad place. I mean, they were a bad ACC team. They were giving up 50 points to James Madison. I mean, it was just embarrassing what they do. At least they've got people who buy into their program, buy into the culture, and they're consistently finishing within the top half of the ACC, which is far better than what they were doing under Jeff Collins. So I would stick around with him a few years. Just give him some time. And then if this keeps reoccurring for a few more years, then I'll get on your train. But, it's hard to develop with winning habits when your program's not a winning program.
Yep. I would also say that, we saw Marcel Reed of Texas A&M hold that team back against Miami in the playoff, and I think Haynes King held back Georgia Tech. He's a gamer, he's gritty, he's tough, but he's not an elite polished passer. I think Georgia Tech needs to find someone who just strictly as a passer, because Haynes King, the runner, is really, really good, but I think Haynes King left something to be desired in the passing game. I think that was one small but very real part of why Georgia Tech couldn't get across the finish line this season. All right, Darrell. So I want to now talk about the other team in that Pop-Tarts Bowl, BYU. So wasn't BYU's best performance, but and not just talking to you, Darrell MVP, but also to our national audience here at the Voice of College Football. Arizona game, Iowa State game, Colorado game. There were several times this season when BYU was down double digits, UCF as well, down double digits, and was able to get off the mat, rally, and win a game. And this is with a freshman quarterback, Bear Bachmeier. So, BYU did not dominate opponents, but there was only one team that beat BYU all season, Texas Tech, and this team just kept digging out of ditches, 10 points down, 14 points down, kept doing it, and now did it one more time, was down 21-10 to Georgia Tech and found a way to win. So, the real MVP, your overview of BYU, which finishes the season 12-2.
I think in the Big 12, it's very hard to separate yourself and be one of the best programs. But I do think if there's any early indications, BYU, through the first 2 years, has a chance to be one of the programs that separated themselves. They could have made the Big 12 championship game last year. They could have made it this year. They've got a great head coach who completely buys into what they're doing, is all in. He's a Mormon himself, which I'm sure is a big reason why he's there. I think their defense in the fourth quarter was completely impressive. They absolutely washed everything Georgia Tech was doing at the end of the game. They adapted to what was happening, and I think BYU's got a very bright future in front of them, and they'll probably be one of those teams that will make the college football playoff by happenstance over the next 4 or 5 years, similar to what SMU has done previously. So I'm pretty high on BYU in their stock. I think they got a great coach, one of the best, most underrated head coaches in the sport. And I think their quarterback actually played for a freshman pretty well today. Like, he didn't make any of the big mistakes. He was poised down the stretch. He made all the right reads. And that's something you're looking in for a freshman quarterback. So I think they're going to be pretty good next year as well.
I would agree, and I would not be very surprised at all if Texas Tech BYU is the Big 12 championship game next season. Obviously, we have the portal to kind of run its course, but chances are Texas Tech's going to get some of the better groceries from the store. So I definitely agree, and like Bear Bachmeier should only get better from here. So that gives BYU a very, very high floor, higher than most teams going into 2026. All right, the real MVP. Anything else from today's bowl games, the playoff, Whittingham to Michigan? Anything else on your radar screen?
Yeah, man, I had Pittsburgh by a lot, and oh man, they disappointed me so much because
Yep.
they were the better football
Same.
team throughout that entire game. And then they would shoot themselves in the foot by making an idiotic throw or an idiotic decision and turn the ball over. And it's just so frustrating watching Pitt play. And that, I think that was a microcosm of their season. Is at their best, they look like a legit top 20 team. But at their worst, they look like a 2-10 football team. And we kind of saw all that throughout their game today. And it was, I mean, the ACC is just in a bad way in general, but Pitt just amplifies it. I mean, I just can't even believe they lost to East Carolina in the way they did. 5 turnovers in a bowl game with an experienced quarterback is completely inexcusable, and that was rough.
Yeah, and just contrast what we saw from Bear Bachmeier, going up against a 9-win Georgia Tech team with what we saw from Mason Heinschel, Pitt's quarterback, going up against East Carolina. You expect a freshman to play like a freshman in the early and middle portions of a season. But in a bowl game, you're looking for some football IQ to kind of not enter the equation, but to be like a constant. You want to see that lessons grasped or encountered during the regular season, that there's some retention in the bowl game. And you did not see that with Mason Heinschel. So again, as I said at the top of the show to Real MVP and everyone watching here at the Voice of College Football, like, if Mason Heinschel is itching to go into the portal, how much, and I don't know if he's going to, but how much of an effort does Pitt make to retain him after seeing that performance in the Military Bowl against East Carolina? That's going to be really interesting. Anything else to Real MVP?
Yeah, a final thing I'll say for today is Big Ten fans are acting like them going 5-0 is some massive feat when their best win is against Clemson, and they, nobody else can have their average football program play New Mexico in a neutral site game and take them to overtime and just barely win. Only the best conference in college football does that, Matt, clearly. So,
yeah, I mean, give PJ Fleck credit for winning these bowl games, but like, it also has to be said, he's not playing the 1979 Alabama, 1995 Nebraska, 2001 Miami in these bowl games. He's playing mid-tier teams. So we give him some credit, but we also say, hey, you're playing middle-of-the-road opponents. You're not playing juggernauts. So that's definitely a balanced conversation we need to have about PJ Fleck at Minnesota. Maybe get to a Citrus Bowl, and then the quality of competition is going to be stiffer. If you can do that, that would be a lot more impressive for certain. So point well made and well taken, Daryl. Anything else you have?
No, that's all I got. I appreciate it. Are you going to plan on hosting the show tomorrow, or what's your schedule looking like?
Tomorrow's Sunday, so Mark doesn't do a Sunday show. I'm not, so I was not planning to do a Sunday show by myself. So yeah, but Mark comes back on Monday, and actually Sunday is for the ladies of the Voice of College Football. So I think that slot might already be reserved. I don't know it for a fact, so I had to remember that. Like I'm not used to being like the ultimate traffic cop at VOCFB because that's what Mark Rogers is. But if the ladies of the Voice of College Football want their Sunday slot, I'm far be it for me to step on that. So hopefully they will do it. But if not, there will be some other, I'm sure, network channel shows that you can find on Sunday. Maybe our next caller might have an idea of anything that's going on Sunday here at the VOCFB.
Well, that's fair enough. Good luck in the Alamo Bowl against TCU. I'm sure that's who you wanted to face in the beginning of the year was TCU.
Yeah, but Josh Hoover opted out. Jaden Mayava staying. So like, if USC doesn't win that game, there are going to be some pitchforks in LA.
There should be, as there should be.
Yes,
that would be embarrassing.
It's been raining a lot in LA, so the pitchforks might heat things up a little bit.
Fair enough. Have a good rest of the show, man.
Thanks, Drill MVP. Always appreciate you calling in. All right, and so that next caller, he is, I think, Mark Rogers' lieutenant here at the Voice of College Football. He's the man of a million different talents and abilities. He makes things run behind the scenes. It's our great friend Jackson Johnson. Jackson, how you doing? Nice big day of college football.
Oh man, it's been a wild ride for the world of college football today. Like it's like we hadn't even talked about like Snoop Dogg getting a catch at a kickoff while doing his interview at the Arizona Bowl. That was funny. So not only has he been able to catch a kickoff in a ball game sponsored by him in his lifetime, he's gotten to be represented college football while Keith Jackson was still broadcasting on ABC. Like, that's funny though. It's like, note to self, if I ever meet Snoop Dogg, I'm gonna have him talk about his favorite moments of college football during his whole life.
Before we get to your other items, Jackson, just gotta say a few things. One, this was the Arizona Bowl. Fresno State beat Miami, but the words Snoop Dogg were painted in the end zones at Arizona Stadium down in Tucson. It has to be a special feeling to have like your name painted in an end zone. Like, imagine, Matt Zemek being painted in an end zone for a bowl game, even if it's on the CW network. Still, your name painted in an end zone. Like that is just a unique level of personal platform and exposure. That's one thing. The other thing I want to mention, Jackson, just while we're on the subject of Snoop Dogg, is that this game was the CW game, and Tom Brenneman, longtime sports announcer, was doing this game. He's been the CW announcer, and I wasn't focusing on this game, but I saw an awful announcing story capturing a segment on air. Tom Brenneman and Snoop Dogg were in the booth chatting, and Fresno State led 9-3 and had a chance to maybe kick a field goal. And so 9-3, you can do the math. Tom Brenneman said, "So if you kick a field goal, that'll make it a 2-score game." And then Snoop Dogg comes in and says, "You spoke too soon." Absolutely hilarious live on-air moment with Tom Brenneman, because we all know what happened, right? With Nick Castellanos, a 2-score game. So that was an absolutely hilarious moment from this college football bowl Saturday, and Snoop Dogg was a part of it. So I had to mention those things about Snoop Dogg. Now, Jackson, let's talk about the other things you wanted to talk about.
earlier you were talking about the Sunday schedule. Usually Florida Gators Live on Florida at the Voice College Football features Tyler Whitfield and Tyler Natuno from College Sports Wire. That's on
Colleague of mine, yes, Tyler's the editor of that site and does an absolutely awesome job.
Oh man, he's got that beard magic, I tell you what, and it crosses over to Florida Gators Live, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, Sunday nights on Florida at the Voice of College Football. Oh man, and I'm looking at this Virginia Missouri game right now, and Missouri is trailing 13-7. They're at their own 45, and it's only 44 seconds left. Okay, well we're going down. We're going down. And Missouri's at second down. They have no timeouts. Okay, well, they got a first down. So it's really close. Like, this is what we expected from Missouri, Virginia, was to be a really tight one, honestly, because, like, Missouri has been in a lot of close games all season. The Virginia Cavaliers have been in a lot of close games all season, including against Florida State, including against Louisville, especially in the South's oldest rivalry, the 2025 edition, where they stopped North Carolina half a yard short of a 2-point conversion in overtime. And, oh, man, like, this is a huge season, like, regardless of what this result looks like for Virginia, because, like, you don't see these kind of years. It makes me feel like Tony Elliott is going to continue to bring that magic that he brought this year and carry on over for the rest of this decade, as long as he's there at Virginia.
Well, you can keep us posted on that. I don't have that TV screen in front of me. And of course, live game coverage is. Go ahead.
Oh, I got the game on my phone, and I've got
Okay.
LSU. I've got LSU Houston on my laptop, and I've also got the Peacock game on my laptop as well.
Yeah. So you can keep us posted. But while we wait for the Gator Bowl to conclude, Jackson, let's just talk about the ACC, because again, that was one of the big stories of this college football bowl Saturday, with the ACC taking several hits. What's your general thought about the 2026 ACC? I'd have to think that Miami and Mario Cristobal, like, they have their operation fundamentally figured out. They get good players. They get physical players. We all know Mario Cristobal. This was true at Oregon. He builds from the middle out. Like, he starts with line play, trench dominance, and that has served him well at Miami. And it's given Miami a level of consistency that we have not seen from Florida State and Clemson. And so you have Georgia Tech, with another late season swoon. Virginia maxing out within the ACC this season. Duke getting fortunate, winning the tiebreakers and winning the ACC championship game. Louisville disappointed. Miller Moss, I wanted to see him do well, but he just wasn't up for it at Louisville. So Jeff Brom needs an upgrade at quarterback in the transfer portal. SMU punched above its weight again, but couldn't finish the deal, losing it at Berkeley to Sagapolu Tele late in the season, crushed its dream of getting back to the ACC championship game 2 years in a row. Jackson, this is a very parity-filled, fluid conference. It's a very up in the air kind of situation, with the exception of Miami. What do you think about the non-Miami teams in the ACC, and which one might rise up in 2026? I know that the portal is going to determine a lot of these conversations that we're going to have in the offseason, but how about an early first look from Jackson Johnson on the ACC?
Well, I am curious to see, how the downfall of Clemson continues. What kind of season are we expecting to see from Florida State? And if Pat Narduzzi is having another down year in 2026, where it's like, it's looking great, but then things end badly, does that kind of put him in a hot seat? That's going to be a top question there. Is there going to be a mess in Chapel Hill, or has the mess kind of cleaned itself up? I'm not feeling like the mess is cleaning itself up when you have Bobby Petrino as offensive coordinator. I mean, that's not a good thing, but we'll
Yeah, I don't
definitely
think
wait.
North Carolina is going to be an ACC team that rises up next year. I think that's pretty safe to say.
Oh yeah, I mean it's obvious, like because like we'll wait and see what happens for 2026. But like North Carolina State, I'm surprised. You and me have definitely been surprised by this, but how is Dave Doreen not on a hot seat? I mean, the previous coach was only there for 6 years. He was only there for 6 years. Shouldn't have left Boston College for North Carolina State. That's a
Tom
dumb move.
O'Brien. Yep.
Yep, dumb move by O'Brien. But
Yeah.
honestly, it's
Yeah,
just
let's talk about that. I mean, Dave Doran, like he's really good at winning 7 to 8 games, but and you know this, Jackson, you study the history of college football. There's a small handful of power conference schools that have never played in one of the top tier bowl games. I just say top tier because the label changes by era, right? It used to be the Bowl Alliance, Bowl Coalition, then it became BCS, then it became New Year's Six. So like the label changes, but we all know what the top tier bowl games are: Rose, Sugar, Orange, Cotton, and beginning in the early 1980s, the Fiesta. And now we all can also add the Peach as the part of the New Year's Six and the playoff rotation. North Carolina State is one of a small group of schools that has never played in one of those games. Vanderbilt is another one. Rutgers is another one. It's a very, very small and exclusive list. And so this gets to your point about Dave Doran at NC State. He's been there for more than a decade, and he hasn't gotten to that top tier bowl game. At what point do you say, an 8-5 season and a Gasparilla Bowl win? Okay, it's not terrible, but we've never reached the mountaintop. Let's find our guy. Let's find our Cignetti, right? Like Kurt Cignetti, he's going to keep coming up at places such as NC State, programs that have never really done much of anything in a very, very, very long time. Find your Cignetti, take your swing, shoot your shot, look for that guy who's going to take you to that top tier. And Cignetti has Indiana poised to stay at the top tier. At NC State, just one 11-1 season with a Sugar Bowl or an Orange Bowl would be amazing. It would be phenomenal. So how many years, Jackson, should NC State swallow hard and just say, all right, we won our Gasparilla Bowl, we win 8-5. How many, for a guy who's been there for over a decade, how many more years do you give him? I think we're on the same wavelength.
Oh yeah, I mean, if I'm North Carolina State, I'd be like, the hell with the Gasparilla Bowl. I'm ready for that ultra next step. I mean, Duke is in an ACC title game. Wake Forest is having better years. I could deal with North Carolina having better years than myself, but Duke and Wake Forest, that's just too far. Get out, Doreen. That's what I'm saying. If I'm North Carolina,
NC State's never played in the ACC championship game, and that's two decades.
Mm-hmm.
Two whole decades. Yep.
It's bad. It is completely bad for North Carolina State. Speaking of which, for Wake Forest, is Jake Dickard going to continue on with some momentum for Wake Forest? Well, we will definitely find out after the Duke's Mayo Bowl against Mississippi State on January 2nd, 2026. And Virginia has won 13-7 in the 2025 Gator Bowl on ABC, thus ending a wonderful, fantastic 2025 season for the Virginia Cavaliers. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens for the future. I mean, 11-3 for Virginia football. You would think we're talking about Virginia Tech football, but it's Virginia football. But I love it. Love to see the underdogs have a great season.
Yep, going back to the George Welsh era when Virginia was ranked number 1 in the nation for a very brief time. I believe it was 1990 under George Welsh. A great underappreciated college football coach from decades past. So very definitely so. And so NC State, try to raise the bar. You and I see that program the same way, and Tony Elliott definitely raised the bar at Virginia, and he got to the ACC championship game, 11 wins. That's some heavy lifting. And people are going to say, but the ACC was weak. Well, Virginia is a team that legitimately took advantage of that. Like that they pounced on an opportunity, whereas all the other non-Miami teams failed to do that. So, well said, Jackson, on Dave Doran at NC State and Tony Elliott at Virginia. All right, what else do you have for us, Jackson?
Well, I would just like to say, tell your friends, your family, and the cashiers at Publix and Whole Foods about the magic that Matt Zemek brings on Trojans Wire, College Wire, and USC Primetime Live Tuesday nights, 9 p.m. Central Time, 10 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. Pacific Time, with Ethan Emmon and Crashlet Collier on USC at The Voice College Football. And, this is where you could check out the premier college football content from Mark Rogers and Matt Zemek, the great ones, all right here on Voice College Football. And check out vocfb.com, where you can see the latest news stories on the Voice College Football and that amazing merch. It's not too. I was at the grocery store the other day seeing that they already have Valentine's Day merch, which means one thing: it's never too early or too late to get that "I'm sorry for messing up" Christmas gift. It's never too early to go, I'm going to get this perfect Valentine's Day gift. And it's from vocfb.com/shop for your favorite teams.
Yep, vocfb.com/shop. All right, Jackson, you promoted me. You need to promote yourself. You do the Alabama Crimson Tide Live call-in show. You do SEC Live. Am I missing any other shows that you're doing?
I did a Sunday episode with Jacqueline Franchuni on Monday afternoon from Wahoo's 247, talking about the Virginia Cavaliers all over the place. And we even wondered whether Chandler Morris is going to be able to return for 2026 due to a waiver. Will she? Will he be able to? Will he not? We're going to wait and see. I mean, it's going to be a wild ride. It is Virginia basketball back to where they were under Ryan. Is Ryan Odom going to create that magic that Tony Bennett before him created? I think that he can. I think Ryan Odom's going to make a lot of magic for Virginia men's basketball. Tony Elliott has got things rocking and rolling. I'm looking forward to what Virginia Athletics is bringing. And Jacqueline helps me look forward to it as well. And let me tell you, that was a fun ride on episode 93 of the Jacksonian. And you can also check out Crimson Tide Live Monday night. We're moving it to a new time for this week only due to the fact that the host could make it at that time. And it's not the question of who I'm picking, who Travion Ware is picking, or Alec Keyser and Bradley Loomis from Indiana The Voice College Football are picking. But who is Jeffrey at Only Talk Sports going to pick between Alabama and Indiana? Because he's having a devil of a time. He loves
both teams. Yep.
Indiana's been his feel-bad team since I first met him on November 4th, 2022, which was definitely before that. But I can tell you right now, he's in quite a dilemma. I call it the decision by Only Talk Sports. That's going to be a wild one. Oof. Well, Matt, I will definitely be seeing you later. And y'all stay safe, stay warm. It's cold out. And the call-in link is in the chat for those who want to talk to Matt Zemek, one of the great ones, along with Mark Rogers here at The Voice College Football.
Jackson, thanks as always. Thanks for all you do behind the scenes. Have a great weekend. And, of course, best of luck with your Crimson Tide Live show going into next week's Rose Bowl against Indiana. Thank you, Jackson.
Oh, thank you so much. And here's to USC victory over TCU. Good night, everybody.
All right. Thank you, Jackson. And now to Dominic. Dominic, pronounce your last names. I don't want to mispronounce it.
It's Bollock, good sir.
Okay, Dominic Bullock. Thanks for calling in, Dominic. What do you have for us here at the Voice of College Football?
Matt, I'm just going to say it straight. right here. We just had our first 11-win season in program history. I watched that whole game. I cannot believe the season we have had. Tony Elliott, Chandler Morris, those guys were the reason we not only had 11 wins, but we defeated Mizzou in the Gator Bowl. I'm speechless, man. What a season we had. It was a
And
Cinderella
part of that
story.
Gator Bowl, like I didn't watch all of that Gator Bowl. Watched some of it, but like give up a first drive touchdown and then pitch a shutout for the rest of the game. Didn't allow a single point. Like that is how tough-minded this year's Tony Elliott Virginia football team really was. It really is a fantastic achievement. The way this team continuously fought back, winning so many close games. Like this team was made of steel in the fourth quarter all season long.
Absolutely. And I definitely have a good feeling, and something in my mind's telling me we could be a future college football playoff threat. What do you think of that, Matt?
Yeah, I mean, the larger reality of the ACC is that it's, Miami looks like a program that's going to be there to stay. But, who's number 2 in the ACC? That's a jump ball. That is anybody's prize to win in future seasons. Like there is not a firm, well-established hierarchy, and Virginia can be that number 2 team. I mean, Virginia has as good a chance as any other contender of being that number 2 team. Like I can't say definitively, oh, it's Georgia Tech, oh, it's SMU. We talked earlier about how Clemson should be viewed as a very ordinary, average program right now that's probably not set up to succeed very well in 2026. Florida State's a mess under Mike Norvell. Like I'm not giving Florida State the benefit of the doubt just because of the brand name. So Virginia has every opportunity to consistently contend for ACC championships. And if you're consistently contending for ACC championships, that makes you a playoff contender. So I think that's a pretty reasonable expectation. And I would also say that after beating an SEC team in a bowl game, like that should help Virginia in the portal, right? So it's all trending upward in Charlottesville, and it's really fun to see.
Absolutely. And one more thing before I go, I do want to mention our running back, Harrison Whaley, went off tonight. He had 20 carries for 68 yards and a rushing touchdown. That dude has been a beast running back for us all season long. And like you said, it is so fun right now back in Charlottesville. I can imagine the folks over there in Charlottesville, they're just celebrating right now like I am, man. Definitely a bright future up in the air for UVA football, the program and the fans as well. I can promise you that.
Yeah, so I'm sure that well, I'm not sure, but I would assume that older family members have told you about the glory days of Virginia football in past decades. Like, have you heard like stories about George Welsh and obviously the way that Sugar Bowl ended against Tennessee was a little bit painful, but Virginia was in the Sugar Bowl playing in a big stage game. Heard what stories do you remember hearing, or what people have told you about past decades of Virginia football at its peak when it was going really well?
I'm going to have to be honest with you, Matt. I have not heard a lot about the past times at UVA, especially that one time. I have heard some things about our Sugar Bowl game that you mentioned, which was a heartbreaker from what I heard, but I haven't heard a lot about the glory days of UVA. But right now, moving forward, we have a bright future with a young quarterback in Chandler Morris. I definitely feel like he's got to be back next year. I'm not sure if he will or not. It all depends on what happens, but I hope he'll be back next year and give us a playoff push for next season.
And I would, let me just ask you directly, that Chandler Morris returning is basically number 1 on Virginia's shopping list for the offseason, correct? Or is there another need that might exceed Morris coming back?
I'm going to be honest with you. I definitely feel like that is the number one thing on our shopping list, is having Morris back for 2026. He's transferred from several teams, including TCU. He did so well at TCU, but now look at what he's done with us. I honestly don't see anybody replacing a great talented young quarterback like Chandler Morris. So I feel like he will be back next year. We'll just see what happens with him.
All right, Dominic, anything else you have for us here at the Voice of College Football?
No, Matt, that will be it.
All right, Dominic, thanks for calling in. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, so as we wind down, a few minutes left, can still take a call or two if you'd like. And there on the screen, you can see, the Jacksonian. There's the link to his recent show, More Virginia Football Talk. And, Virginia gives the ACC a lift. As Jackson, gave us kind of the live update. Virginia does finish off Missouri 13-7, gave up a first drive touchdown, and then blanked the Tigers the rest of the way. Obviously, Missouri playing a backup quarterback, so you could put an asterisk next to that. But hey, like Penn State had a backup quarterback, and that didn't stop Penn State from beating Clemson with, its QB1, Cade Klubnik. So really, I wouldn't put an asterisk next to that. Virginia still had to beat an SEC team, a team coached by Eli Drinkwitz. Falls behind 7-0 early, takes a punch, fights back, wins the game. That's a really good Gator Bowl win for Virginia. So as we wind down the show, I talked earlier this week on Christmas Eve about the playoff games. So anything new to say about these games? Yeah, I have one thing to say, and that is, watching BYU struggle against Georgia Tech. Now, I know BYU won in the end, but that was an uphill battle for BYU. BYU was playing from behind for a majority of that contest. And when you consider that, Texas Tech was able to beat that BYU team twice handily, but Texas Tech doesn't have, a really big high-end win outside the Big 12. I said earlier in the week that I was slightly leaning to Texas Tech in the Orange Bowl against Oregon. I think after seeing BYU and just digesting that game against Georgia Tech, BYU won, but did not look like the better team for most of the 60 minutes. I think I'm now in firm toss-up mode. There's no lean to Texas Tech anymore. And there was a slight lean, but now it's kind of like politics, right? You go from lean to toss-up. That's my reaction to the Pop-Tarts Bowl. I think that I can't really say Texas Tech has a slight edge over Oregon. That's now a total 50-50 coin flip in the Orange Bowl. So that's one of my reactions. One other thing to say about the playoff games is that, Alabama is getting some players back. LT Overton, I know a few other players, and Indiana doesn't have one of its starting defensive linemen, because he had a freak injury in the celebration after the Big Ten championship game against Ohio State. The more I see Alabama players getting healthy, Alabama adding some pieces, adding some depth. I mean, I'm still president of the Kurt Cignetti fan club, believe you me. But as Alabama gets guys back, gets guys healthy, I'm coming over to the idea that Alabama could pull it off. Now, I'm picking Indiana money line, but I think I'm pretty solid right now saying I would take Alabama plus the 6.5 in the Rose Bowl, just because I see these other pieces being added for Alabama, and Indiana's not adding pieces. I'm thinking Indiana something like 24-20. So Alabama covering the 6.5. Alabama covering the 6.5. And I'm the more I think about that game, the more I think it's going to be really, really close. So it's a 1 seed versus a 9, but really I think that game is likely to be very intense, very dramatic at the end. let's keep in mind that last year's Rose Bowl with a 1 seed was a blowout, and the 1 seed didn't win. The 1 seed was on the short end of that. So it's kind of a reminder that seedings in the college football playoff, we shouldn't get too wrapped up in those in the sense of that's going to dictate the matchup. Now, 5 versus 12 is the exception, and you could maybe also 6 versus 11. But other than those two games, because with the 11 seed and the 12 seed, you're talking about group of 5, or just the team that barely snuck in at the bottom. But pretty much every other game, seeds don't really seem to matter all that much. Like Georgia versus Ole Miss, like Georgia's going to win for reasons other than the fact that it's a 3 seed and Ole Miss is the 6. If Ohio State beats Miami, it's not going to be because of it's 2 versus 10. It's because Ohio State has a defense that can keep Carson Beck and the Miami passing game under wraps. So, the seeds might suggest that Indiana is a lot better than Alabama, but with Alabama getting guys healthy, that Rose Bowl game, I'm thinking, is going to be a very close game. And I'm not sure I was in that same spot intellectually a couple weeks ago, but I'm there now. I'm very much expecting a close Rose Bowl game, Alabama and Indiana. Also, one more note about the Rose Bowl. Been very rainy in Southern California, and the rain and the cloudy conditions are expected to continue. It breaks my heart because, part of the majesty and the glory and the grandeur of the Rose Bowl, the granddaddy of them all, is that brilliant sunshine in Pasadena, in the Arroyo Seco, in the shadows of the San Gabriel Mountains. We remember Keith Jackson calling that game. I remember Dick Enberg calling that game in the 80s. Yes, I'm dating myself. I'm getting old. So, part of the magic of the Rose Bowl is having sunlight for that game. So the forecast is not for sunlight. It's probably going to be cloudy and it's going to be wet. And so that reinforces ball security for the 2 quarterbacks in the game, Ty Simpson and Fernando Mendoza. Yes, someone in the chat's reminding me, yes, Brent Musburger also called the Rose Bowl. Absolutely. You are looking live. Got to get that one in for Brent, of course. But ball security was already going to be a factor in the Rose Bowl, but now with rain very possibly in the forecast for New Year's afternoon, that's next Thursday, it's going to reinforce the need for Simpson and Mendoza. Make the safe play, make the routine play, don't be the hero. Let your defense go out and win that game. So that's an added item on the Rose Bowl. All right, folks, it's been a little over an hour, and, I wasn't expecting any super chats tonight, so there's not going to be a second hour. It's been my pleasure to fill in for Mark Rogers a few times this week. And, folks, I hope that you've enjoyed the day of college football today. We still have the Texas Bowl going on, and, hey, LSU got out to that quick 14-0 lead. It's gone. Houston leading 21-14. Over LSU, the final non-Lane Kiffin LSU game for the time being. Lane Kiffin obviously not coaching in this game. He takes over the program in full in 2026. So a reminder, Mark is back at it on Monday, December 29th. Jackson told us Florida Gators Live is on Sunday. Might be a few other shows for you to enjoy at the VOCFB network on Sunday. Then Corey Brada of our Iowa channel, he has a New Year's Eve show. I don't have the time for you there, but Corey is doing a show on New Year's Eve. So Iowa playing Vanderbilt midday on New Year's Eve. That's Wednesday. But Corey Brada from our Iowa channel is doing a show on New Year's Eve. And, of course, New Year's Eve night, that's also the Cotton Bowl. That's the first of the 4 playoff quarterfinals. So I know that Mark Rogers is going to have something there. And then, of course, the 3 playoff quarterfinals on New Year's Day. So stay in touch with Mark Rogers, and also stay in touch with Jackson at the Alabama Call-In Show, and follow Alec Keyser. Jackson did name drop our friend Alec Keyser, who does a great job at SIGs Inside, the Indiana football channel. You can get the Indiana inside read on the Rose Bowl. Follow the other channels in our network, like our Miami channel is a really popular channel, does really good numbers. Follow the Miami channel. Follow our Ohio State channel with Mark Rogers hosting some of those Ohio State shows going into the Cotton Bowl on Wednesday night. So much coverage. Be sure that you're getting all the different flavors, all the different slices of the Voice of College Football Network. The team shows, the national broadcasts, the SEC show, which Jackson Johnson does. All the different angles on this great sport. And we head into one of the most consequential and also traditional weeks of every college football season. That special feeling that we get on New Year's morning, where we get the Orange Bowl, the granddaddy of them all, the Rose Bowl, and then the Sugar Bowl in New Orleans in prime time, bringing back some great memories and what will happen this particular year. All right, folks, it's been my pleasure. Thanks for watching and listening to the Voice of College Football. Be sure to like us, subscribe to our YouTube channel for the various team-specific shows. Become a member. Join. Memberships can have some perks for the various channels. And vocfb.com/shop. If you get a cap or a shirt with like Alabama on it, that helps the Alabama channel. If you get it with Michigan on it, that helps the Michigan channel. If you get a cap or a VOCFB shirt at vocfb.com/shop with Ohio State on it, helps the Ohio State channel. The Miami channel. Help out our different channels, because we all need to eat. Like, we all love bringing you this content, but feel free to support us in whatever way you can. All right, so Mark Rogers is back at it on Monday, beginning a very big week of college football. Enjoy the feast. Enjoy the feast of consequential college pigskin action all next week here at the Voice of College Football. So for Mark Rogers, or Jackson Johnson, and our whole team, thanks for watching and listening. Happy New Year, and enjoy.
College football is even more exciting when you've got some action on the line, and the games are even better when you're cashing in. And the Voice of College Football is the place to be to get the greatest value. Start with my picks. 75% against the money line, 58% against the spread, and I've got a 40-plus year track record. 11-0 in the college football playoff for me last year against the money line, 8-3 against the spread. And I'm just the warm-up act. Steve Merrill of Wager Talk is our ace in the hole, show stopper. 7 years with the Voice of College Football, over 30 years in the industry. Steve gives us analysis on all the big games, but you can't miss Steve's weekly under-the-radar pick. 28-12 against the spread the last 3 years. You also get picks from some of our top analysts here at the Voice of College Football, including Corey Bratta, Matt Zemek, and Steve Dace. Check out those numbers. Become a YouTube or Patreon member for just $99 per month. Go to the main channel on YouTube, click join, and then select the betting tier. Do the same thing on Patreon. Make 2025 a winner now.